Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May Luncheon of Manatee Tiger Bay Club. We're so pleased to have you join us today here at the Manatee Performing Arts Studio. My name is Rebecca Furta, and I'll be serving as your moderator today. So we have a timely discussion and a very important discussion planned, and so we look forward to hearing from our incredible panel of speakers. But first, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is located over here to your right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wonderful. Thank you. All righty, and at this time, we'd like to recognize any veterans and active duty members in the audience. And if you've served or are currently serving our country, please stand so that we may say thank you. Nobody? All right. Well, either way, thank you. And we'd also like to recognize any dignitaries in attendance today. Do we have any? All righty, great. So before we begin, please take a moment to silence your cell phones out of respect for our speakers and our fellow attendees. And our topic today is Immigration Now, the need for legislation change, policy shift, and real-world impact. We're honored to welcome the four following distinguished speakers: Maleska Zavala-Moore of Dubreuil and Noel, Attorney Luis Castro, of Castro Law, Kelly Kirshner, the Dean of Executive and Special Programs at Eckerd College and Chair of Unidos Now, and then Attorney C.J. Zaya of Zaya Law Firm. All right. Thank you all for attending today. So to allow everyone time to start their meal and then finish, I'll begin with each speaker's bio. Afterward, we'll allow each of our speakers some time on the microphone, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers from our audience, okay? All righty. So first up, I've got to get my papers organized. I apologize. As you all know, usually Xtavi is doing this, and she's done it a ton of times, so she's a pro. All right. Attorney Maleska Zavala-Moore is a skilled attorney with over 17 years of experience in legal, financial services, and client advocacy. Born and raised in Peru and based in Sarasota, Florida, Maleska is committed to guiding clients through complex legal landscapes with integrity, empathy, and a deep commitment to safeguarding their rights. Prior to joining the legal field in Florida, Maleska held leadership roles in major financial institutions, where her decision to maintain high standards of client satisfaction migrated her to her current immigration role with skills in legal research, brief drafting, and in-depth analysis. Her goal is to provide informed counsel to clients facing all immigration matters, helping them navigate difficult situations with confidence and passion. Maleska holds a Juris Doctor degree from Western Michigan University's Thomas Cooley Law School and a law degree in civil and commercial law from National University of Trujillo in Peru. In every case, Maleska strives to build a strong, trust-based relationship with her clients, prioritizing their long-term goals and peace of mind. Her background drives her mission to protect her clients and deliver effective solutions in immigration law and beyond. Welcome. All righty, and then next up we have Mr. Attorney Luis Castro. Born in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, Luis Castro moved from Stuart, Florida at the age of 4. In 2004, he relocated to Palmetto, Florida, where he attended and graduated from Palmetto High School. After high school, Luis attended Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers. During this time, Mr. Castro worked full-time as a bookkeeper for a major grocery store. Mr. Castro went on to achieve a degree in communications in 2013. After receiving his undergraduate degree, Mr. Castro attended Thomas M. Cooley Law School located in Riverview, Florida. While in law school, Mr. Castro interned with Rule Law. Through the experience, he learned to interact with clients and prepare criminal cases from inception to completion. During his final year of law school, Mr. Castro left Rule Law to become a certified legal intern with the 12th Judicial Circuit Public Defender's Office in Manatee County. During that time, Mr. Castro handled several jury trials and numerous evidentiary hearings for indigent individuals who had been accused of committing a crime. His professional associations include the Florida Bar, Florida Associate of Criminal Defense Lawyers, Inns of Court 2017, the Manatee Chapter, and the Federal Bar Association. Mr. Castro focuses on immigration law and is also fluent in Spanish. Mr. Castro also practices various areas of civil litigation. All right, so welcome. All righty. And next up, we have Kelly Krishner, who is the Dean of Executive and Special Programs at Eckerd College and also a chair of Unidos Now. Former mayor of the city of Sarasota, Florida, co-founder of Unidos Now, and now chair of the organization, Kelly Krishner is the Dean of Executive and Special Programs at Eckerd College, so we're going to really emphasize that one. With a master's in Latin American Studies from Georgetown University and having lived and worked in Central and South America for over 4 years, Kelly not only speaks fluent Spanish, but he is also knowledgeable about the history and challenges of the immigrant population faced upon arrival in the United States. Welcome.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Mr. C.J. Zaya, attorney, advocate, and community trailblazer. Christopher John C.J. Zaya is a practicing attorney, community activist, and longtime advocate for the Hispanic community. With over 30 years of legal experience, he began his career as a public defender in Florida's... Did I already read this one?
He can finish it for you.
I was going to say.
It's still the 12th district.
Oh, you both did the 12th district. I'm sorry. Second guessing myself. So yes, he began his career as a public defender in Florida's 12th Judicial Circuit and now leads a successful personal injury practice. He has represented thousands of clients and secured major settlements, including $15 million and a $4.5 million for immigrant families. CJ is licensed to practice law in Florida, Minnesota, and federal courts. As the founder of Unidos Now, CJ launched a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering Latino youth through education and civic engagement. His personal mantra, Oración, all righty. Prayer with action reflects his belief that prayer alone is not enough. It must be paired with the strength and commitment to become the change that one seeks. For CJ, Oración is a call to transform hope into action and faith into impact. CJ has also served as chair of the Manatee County Democratic Party. He appears frequently as a legal and political commentator and advocated for immigration reform, DACA protections, and community empowerment. A passionate supporter of motorcycle safety, he sponsors a national race team and top American riders, and his brand, 1833 CJ Knows Accident and Injury Law, is well known in the Moto America paddock. From the courtroom to the community, CJ remains committed to defending individual rights, promoting opportunity, and leading with purpose. All right. So we've got an excellent board here today. And so each speaker will now share their insights, followed by the Q&A session. So please welcome Miliska Zavala Moore. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a nice lunch. Thank you again for inviting me. I definitely have to start by thanking Manatee Tiger Bay Club for this amazing invitation. I wanted to share the opportunity with to have this opportunity with 3 amazing advocates, which from what we know, they're advocates for real change. I wanted to share the fact that when I received the topic, I started to think about this quote that says, "Nothing that is necessary is ever comfortable, and we have to start building our tolerance with discomfort." And if you think about today's topic, immigration now, I couldn't think about something that is farther away from being an easy, comfy conversation. And this is because real immigration now, it's open to so many different points of view. And if we think about the rest of the topic, it says the need for legislation, and it says real-world impact. And then I started to think, I want to call it surreal impact. As an immigration attorney, what I'm seeing is definitely surreal. It's so detached from reality that I myself am questioning what I learn, what I study, and how can this be happening in a United States court of law. I want to share some of the insights that I'm personally witnessing, because recently in a hearing, I heard an immigration judge say, literally, "I'm just a tiny immigration judge in this big administration, and my hands are tied." I have witnessed how they openly, completely detach from binding cases, and they apply their own case law or their own invention of what they think the law should be. I have been getting a lot of calls from clients that are detained, and the level of how their encounters with law enforcement are completely detached from the real powers of an agency. It's above anything I ever seen, not only as a US citizen, but as a resident of the community that trusts law enforcement to protect us. I also keep thinking of all the cases that get to me and that I analyze and I wonder, where is the due process? That's why I think today in this forum, it's so important, necessary, and actually morally mandatory to have an open conversation, but more than anything, an intentional conversation. Because we can be gathered as a community, as leaders, or just personal contributors, but we have to think it's more than a conversation. What are we gonna do? What can we do? What is it our role in order to not only leave it at words? What is it that is going to bring some real change? That's why I open your questions. I want to think that with the best of my knowledge and ability, we can bring some light to the current immigration policies. We are being bombarded right and left with, this is a new law, this is now it's gonna happen. But really, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I want to feel that that's why we're here. And I also want to touch base on the good part. I still see success stories, and I still feel that the promise of the United States, the promise for asylum, the promise for family-based petition, the promise for visas based on employment and based on studies, they're still out there. I still have faith that there are some things that are still happening. And with that said, I want to also believe that we're here with some sense of belonging to this country, some sense of humanity. What is it that, again, we can do in our homes, in our schools, in our churches, in our associations like Manatee Tiger Bay, that is going to make us all in a better place so we can face the challenges together. Again, I welcome your questions. I thank you for your time, and I'm honored to be part of this panel today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alrighty, up next, Mr. Luis Castro.
Thank you guys for having me. Wasn't a time too long ago when I was in law school or even in undergrad where I never thought I would be in this position, let alone even sitting in something like this. But for me, what I do, it's a lot more personal. I was born in Mexico. I went through the immigration process, with my parents, and based on the laws at that time, it was, I wouldn't say easier, but it was more favorable to people all around. Now, we don't see that as much. You see, like she talked about, I see it on the criminal side. I practice criminal law. I see people getting stopped and, just for, not having a license or being arrested and detained. I probably get about 5 to 8 calls a week saying, my brother, my family member, my so-and-so was stopped and they don't have a license and they've been detained and now there's an ICE hold. And, stories are heartbreaking because a lot of times they're just going to work. They're trying to provide for their families. And I get it, driving in Florida without a license is a crime, but it shouldn't be something that you're targeted for, especially, based on the color of your skin, because that's what's happening right now. Some people don't want to admit that, but it is. It's had a couple things gone, differently in my family and my personal life and all that. I may be in the same situation. I may not be up here. So I always appreciate these kind of talks, and I appreciate that the community is open and willing to listen, because a lot of times, even just hanging out or, even with colleagues, it's tough to get through because they're so set on what they think is right or what they think things should be, and that's not always the case. In law school, first day of law, so fun fact, the 3 of us here are Cooley grads, all at different times, and then, CJ working at the public defender's office as well, like I did. Although when he was there, they probably still had like the chisel on tablets. So with us, it was just a push of a button, you know. So, but no, it was, it's things like that that, you know, it makes it harder to have an open dialogue if everyone's so closed off and, you know, set in their own ways. And I just hope that things like this can happen more, and, you know, things do change, because we need huge immigration reform. There are categories of immigrants, like victims, that, you know, right now in this administration, they're being targeted. Victims of domestic violence, victims of labor and, you know, human and sex trafficking. They're the ones that are suffering too. And a lot of times, you know, what I hear and what I see is, you know, those are the ones that are being targeted in some instances. So, you know, I just hope that everyone can keep an open mind, and, you know, maybe today someone walks away with a little bit more understanding, and they can pass that along to others that they know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kelly Krishner, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me in spite of my lack of Cooley credentials. CJ, you're not that old with the chisel. It was just an old typewriter, I'm sure. So I think maybe similar to Maluska, sorry. When she talks about nothing comfortable, I always think when we talk about immigration, the old Mark Twain quote, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble, it's what you know for sure that just ain't so." And I think what Mr. Castro just was referring to would resonate in very similar ways. And if anything, I think the overarching challenge for this country is this cognitive dissonance that we see on display every day of a Judeo-Christian country founded in Judeo-Christian principles, and in the very heart of the book of Genesis that says, remember to create the immigrant as you would want to be treated, because remember, you were once exiled in a land as an immigrant as well. And yet, the dehumanizing in general of populations, that if we ever want to be a serious country, a serious state, and a serious community, to really appreciate how immigration for the past century, really, but particularly after the Reagan amnesty in '86 has worked, that it is a magnet of jobs that really, in many ways, brings people to the community, that keeps American agriculture, service, industry going, and we could talk all about that, but I think this audience can appreciate those types of things. And so then, where is that humanity in appreciating? We cast a blind eye when we welcomed in those tomatoes from these amazing Ruskin farms. We cast a blind eye when we stepped into that wonderful, beautiful new house in Lakewood Ranch that we just walked into, that 90% of the labor, if you go out there now or in the past 20, 30 years, was only exclusively speaking Spanish. And if you're okay with all of that, then you should be okay with, I think, what Mr. Castro and Maluska are talking about, of having a more moderated conversation and a nuanced conversation of what fundamentally are the economic drivers of this country. How do we treat children who are part of a mixed status family, who, whether we like our Constitution or not, are born here and they're U.S. citizens, and their parents who perhaps, and CJ will go into the law of how they have overextended a visa, or what it is that they are deemed in that dehumanizing fashion as illegals, what it is with them that we want to then basically forcefully remove parents from their children. And so these are serious questions that I think we never get to have. We get to have these very simplistic types of things of, there was an undocumented immigrant that was drunk and had a terrible incident of hitting a woman who's a mother of small children, and therefore 13 million undocumented people in this country should be summarily deported if we can do it quick enough. I'd like to think in a cynical way, because our president, if you're not familiar, there's many stories about many of his properties around this country that have been built with undocumented labor, that I think quietly the president understands that that would probably be really incredibly detrimental to this nation's economy, maybe on the scale of of recession level of removing 13 million working adults and what that would do, which is why it's interesting if you look at the deportation numbers now in the first 110, 20 days, they actually lag behind what Joe Biden was doing. And so there's also part of this of cutting through the bluster and the dehumanizing stuff that is really great for media attention. And then getting at what's going on. I would hope, things start to shift. And by the way, we've been at this kind of insane conversation at a minimum since George W. Bush left office, and he said one big failed thing that he didn't deliver on was comprehensive immigration reform. I think in the state of Florida, if you remember, when Rick Scott ran for governor, and he was really only known then for presiding as CEO of a company that had overseen the largest Medicare fraud in the history of this country, and no one thought he had a chance to win the election as governor. But similar to the chance in 2016 of build a wall, Governor Scott said we were going to bring a law here that would say that by virtue of Orlando's accent and the way his skin looks, I can demand that he shows me documentation of his proof of residency, and if he doesn't have it, I can detain him. And until that is shown, then he will remain in detention or be transferred to an ICE facility. That was his campaign, and I think there was about $20 million that Rick Scott spent on that, and he beat an otherwise shining star of the Florida Republican Party quite easily in a primary. And so that is in 2010, and basically it's been nonstop for the past 15 years, not only in a state and a national level. And we need to get to a serious conversation, and it seems too frequently that it's more about the politics, and the best solution is to not have a solution so that you can keep beating it every 2-4 years for an election. And I think all of us as citizens, and hopefully as individuals of good faith and shared humanity, that we're committed to having that better conversation that today is a part of, and I would echo what the other panelists have said and being appreciative to being invited. So thank you.
All righty, CJ.
Good afternoon. Wow, I cannot believe we're living in these tumultuous times in this country. In 1970, when Republican Governor Claude Kirk came to this county and took over the school board, and to prevent the integration of schools, to prevent black children and Latino children from going to school with white folk, that was in my lifetime and some of your lifetime, and that was not a problem. Most of our good Christian schools in our community were founded just to keep white children away from people of color. Oh, I'm not surprised by what we're seeing in this nation. I always said, what crime has this child committed? How can you call somebody illegal? It's not even a crime. It's not a crime. And let me explain why. It's very simple. If you commit a crime in this great nation, you have the right to due process, to Article 3 judges, to a jury trial. In immigration, you do not have a right to an attorney. It's not a crime. Newsflash, it's a civil issue. It is not a crime, but we call people illegal. How inhumane and unchristian are we as a society? The Dems do it too. Illegal, illegal. No human being is illegal. You know, one of the things that I think we need to do is be more woke. And what does that mean? To be educated. We don't want you to be woke because that would require you to study. Right down the road, there's a school, university, that was liberal arts educated, and we want to shut them down. Why? Because they teach you philosophy. They teach you to think for yourself. Don't believe what I'm saying. Research it yourself. It's not a crime. There are three kinds of laws, right? Divine law, positive law, which is done by the legislature and the president or the governor, And then we have natural law. Philosophy, and remember, this came from back in the day with the great philosophers, the ancient Greeks, St. Thomas Aquinas, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke. They are the ones that fundamentally made this what our forefathers, used to create this nation of due process. All men are created equal. It's a beautiful thing, and natural law trumps people law. Oftentimes in Nazi Germany or around the world here, we create laws where human beings are slaves. Is that a good thing? I would say that goes against everything of great nature. But all the people that own slaves were going to church every Sunday. I did a lot of criminal work, and criminals are more honestly dishonest than most people that go to church. They're just hypocrites. You call somebody illegal, shame on you. It's not a crime. Make it a crime. Give them representation. Give them the right that each of us have if we do commit a crime. Then I got no problem with it. It's not a crime. I want to remind you not of all the great fruits and vegetables that we eat, the waiters, the busboys, the cooks, the construction workers, the pool cleaners, the maids, the janitors, the professionals like doctors and lawyers, Pulitzer Prize winners, professionals that act with us every day that are undocumented, illegal, and in some people's mind, criminal, which it's not. The dreamers, these youngsters that have been here all their life, who can't even go to college here as a resident. It's unconscionable. How about Jose Gutierrez? I want you to remember this when somebody demeans an immigrant, an undocumented person, a United States Marine who came to this nation illegally, without papers, as some people would say illegal. Well, he was one of the first servicemen to give his life for our country in Iraq. So the next time anybody talks bad about a human being, stand up for what's right. I often wondered what I'd do if I lived in Nazi Germany and I was a German and I lived down the road from Dachau. And they were doing horrible things. What would I do? Because it doesn't affect me. My life is great. The economy, well, tariffs, I don't know. What would I do? What can I give up to see that justice is done? That the good things happen, that this country was founded on these great principles. We were the leader of the free world. No longer. No longer unless we do something to get our country back on the path of justice and fairness and equality. We must always dream about what we should be. I know we're idealistic. Listen, I was a Republican and a conservative. I hate paying taxes. I like driving Mercedes. I'm the biggest right-wing nut that way. But I'm also about social justice and fairness. Let me have freedom. The Republican Party is no longer the Republican Party of old, and the Democratic Party has failed to have a voice to explain. When you call your Democratic leader, you call people illegal, you're failing. When you talk about abortion, and it's not about abortion, it's about the right of privacy. Where do you have this Constitution? I just saw what it has. It's the Constitution. A right of privacy that keeps government out of your personal life. That's why we're attorneys, to fight for the individual freedoms that we have. Nobody wants abortion, but we don't want government into our personal life. Democrats have failed. Republicans have failed. It's up to the people now to take our country back. Thank you for this. Please don't listen to anything I say. Educate yourself. No, I mean, what I mean by that is quit listening to the right or the left. Figure it out for yourself. What kind of country do you want to live in? And I'm going to say, what was it? Ian Kirchner, the famous Jewish historian, said something like, Auschwitz was built by hate but paid with indifference. Okay, so you're a white man, a woman, or maybe you're a Latino with blue eyes and you think you're white, or an African American that you think you're white and you're not. It's up to us to demand and expect greatness from our leaders. But I always say that I can blame Trump, but he's not the problem. Every country you go to, the leaders are a reflection of the people. What does that say about us? If you're not willing to stand up for truth, for justice, to be uncomfortable, to help others when they're in need, and the Latins, the message to the immigrants coming in, get the hell out of here if you're not going to stand up yourself. Get the hell out of here. I don't need more dumb, stupid, ignorant people. Educate yourself. And that message needs to come to us first. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All righty, so now we will welcome questions from our audience, but there are a few guidelines that we do like to follow. Only members of the Manatee Tiger Bay Club may ask questions, and if you'd like to become a member, please see Allie at the front desk. Each member may ask one question up to 30 seconds long. Please keep it concise and ask only your question. Start by stating your name and identify which speaker your question is directed to. All righty, so Jane is at the microphone, and if you have a question, please go see her real quickly.
I'm going to take advantage of my position here as the microphone police and ask the first question, if I may. I think most people who are in, I'm Jane Filesticker, and I am a member. Most people who are here in attendance have a vested interest in one way or another in immigration in this country. And most of us would be willing to do something if we knew what to do. So I would like to ask each one of our panelists to, if you would please, offer us one simple suggestion as to something that an individual can do to improve the present situation in immigration in our country.
You guys are more than welcome to come up here if you want to do the handheld.
I guess for me, I would say vote, but don't just vote along party lines. It's like CJ said, educate yourself, and don't believe everything that's said out there just because they're your favorite politician. Politicians are elevated to a rock star status right now, and that's not what they are. They serve us. They serve the people. So I would say vote, but vote meaningfully.
It's more than voting. That's the least you should do. If you're Hispanic and you're called to jury duty, don't get out of it. Go in and sit on the jury. We were just talking about that earlier. Educate yourself. Become woke. And I am just so disgusted at the fact that they don't want us to think, because they control us. What is it the Caesars used to do? They give you the games and the circus. Remember the Colosseum? Why? They're entertaining the people. That's football and baseball. I love soccer. I'm in there too. But I can talk to my clients. They'll talk to me about the quarterback and this, that, but don't ask them who the Vice President of the United States is. It's done with intent. They gave free grain. That's our welfare system. Keep people just sort of happy. I talk to my clients all the time. They have no clue what goes on in this country. Our educational system is being destroyed on purpose. Public education no longer exists. I was just involved in a big litigation against in Lincoln Middle. I spent $100,000 defending our board members against the corruption in this very county. And there's no time to even talk about that today, but it exists at every level. Get involved. Educate yourself. Don't buy my ideas, please. Figure it out for yourself, but from a legitimate source. Promote liberal arts education. People confuse college. They say, well, I don't need to go to college to make money. That's correct. We don't go to college to make money. We go to college so we're not ignorant, so we can think for ourselves. That's why we get an education. If you're going to make money, you're going to get money. I know a lot of guys that are so educated they can't make a dollar. But I also know guys that are super wealthy. They're so stupid.
So maybe back to your question, like what we can do, and I'm sure there are folks here that have mixed feelings. I think probably if you asked all four of us, do we believe in open borders and anybody can come in and know? And so I think, again, we need to stop the hyperbole, excuse me, there's so much that's really just flat out stupid. And what we need to start at is that core of a shared humanity, that we live in a community, and let's start there. And if we can do a good job in a community, and we recognize that there were people that built my house, there are people that are coming to lay those pavers, there are people back in that kitchen that are washing those dishes in my favorite restaurant. Like, they are here. Florida leads, probably next to Texas and California in terms of that population of undocumented immigrants that is not a new phenomena. That's not a Joe Biden phenomena. That has been something that's been going on since the Reagan amnesty and long before the Reagan amnesty. And before Latinos that came, that were coming, we really had African Americans that before they were freed, they were slaves in the state of Florida. And so that's not a new phenomenon. So for me, it starts with just, what the quote that CJ referenced, the indifference. We need to stop the indifference. And I think when people are posting stuff online that are our friends, it might just be a DM. Or maybe you're tired of the way things are and the constant rhetoric and vitriol and hate. Maybe it's even a phone call and just be like, that's really not a good look. Like, you're out there on Facebook saying that, you're on Instagram, you're reposting that type of content. I think we're better than that. And I say that because I'm at a point of such cynicism with where we are as a nation, with unfettered campaign finance, that we can be bought out incredibly cheap. Imagine just if you're someone who has a net worth of $50 billion and all you have to do is spend $250 million, and then you can spend the rest of the next 6 months doing whatever the heck you want to the federal government and the rest of the world in terms of basically the post-Bretton Woods World War II recovery plan. And because you had $250 million, you can disrupt all of that? Like, that's insane. And so we need in this country real campaign finance reform, and we need an end to gerrymandering. And when you end gerrymandering, then we're going to start having serious conversations. Because right now what you have are these gerrymandered districts, not only in Florida, but this entire country, that everyone, to get elected, you have to win the primary. And to win the primary, you have to be the furthest fringe on both sides, because it's a small turnout and it's the fringe who will turn out. And so that's where my cynicism is. And so for me, to answer your question, start at home. Start with this indifference that is the asphalt that led us to Auschwitz. And hopefully through there and other concerted efforts as a country to address these significant issues that we face, that I agree with CJ. Our system is bankrupt by Democrats and Republicans.
They have taken away all my ideas. But honestly, and this is going to be exactly to your point, because what I said up there was, what can I do to be more than a witness? And I think I'm going to share something personal that I did myself, because yes, educate yourself, do something, stop being indifferent, but how can I start on my own? Something very personal that I did. I wrote down my bias, because we're all biased. It's not true that, oh no, I'm very neutral, I love my neighbor, I don't care what color you are, I don't care where were you born, I don't care that you have an accent. They do. And it comes out in jokes. I have close friends that they still make fun of my accent, and I know they mean well. And I know they are my friends. So write down your bias. What do you think? And it's just for you. And start then reaching out to somebody that, this person is older, so they think like this. This person, I don't know, they do landscaping, so they must be Mexican. This person, and this is, like I said, something personal, because when I first became an attorney, I showed up at this event, and they asked me if I was there to waitress. So just write it down. Think about the things that make you feel different about somebody, and start from there. The change is always going to start from within.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Liv Coleman. I'm a professor of political science at the University of Tampa, and I live in Bradenton. And I have a question for anyone who can speak to the impact of the changes in legislation or enforcement related to education and its impact on higher education. Because in my classroom, it's wonderful to have international students. Especially in political science and international studies classes, it really enriches our discussion with different perspectives. And not to mention, in higher education, when we have students come over on visas, international students, this is over $40 billion annually that counts towards U.S. exports. This reduces our trade deficit with other countries. So I worry about this on a number of levels, and whether they be, DACA or Dreamers, or whether they're coming over on visas. What are you seeing in your communities or in your practices regarding higher education or students?
So, great question, and as a colleague across the bay, I'm at Eckerd College just over the bridge here at UT in Tampa, 2 private schools. And for those in the room that are not in higher education, yes, it's a critical issue. It sounds like you probably can speak to it better than I can because I'm in a non-credit area, but somewhat familiar with the whole challenge, really. A $40 billion market that if you talk to any family really anywhere in the world, but particularly right now in China with 1 child in the house, even a lower middle income family, the dream for that family, for the past 50, 60 years has been to save enough money to send that child to the United States. That is shifting dramatically quickly, and this is not a tariff. This is just another impact of some of these types of policies, and now looking to go elsewhere and going to the UK, going to Australia, other countries for that. And it's really quite incredible that you have on a national stage, maybe to CJ's point, on this really, attack on education in general, that some of the biggest brands that have, respected throughout the world, that we would be attacking them and selling them. Many of these also being the same institutions that these individuals who are our leaders attacking them, that paradoxically they attended these institutions too. So it's definitively one of many of these types of impacts that the zone is flooded so much that we really can't talk about. I think maybe one of the questions as it relates to the state of Florida and the community where we live, there's a program called DACA that's deferred action for young people like the child who was on CJ's folder here that he showed to you, that we know, and Unidos Now works with many of these young people, as do other organizations throughout the state of Florida, who were brought here as children by their parents. The child had no intention to break the law. They go through the school system. Many of these young people don't even have a memory of the country where they were born. For all intents and purposes, they are citizens of the state of Florida, will have gone through elementary, middle, high school here. Is it right for them to have in-state tuition? For the past decade plus, the state of Florida said yes. This past spring, the legislature said no more. I believe it's 6,500 students in the state of Florida that I wrote down before coming here that are impacted by that, and what will happen to them. And again, I think for me it's maybe similar to Maluska telling us to check our bias. For me, it's like, let's get out of our body and get out of our head and whatever those biases are, and think of what we would think, or the world and history would think of us 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Children that grew up here, and we would say, no, like, we don't want you to educate yourself. We don't want an educated workforce. We don't want the workforce of tomorrow. We want you to just, you're done, and you don't have that opportunity to do that. And so it's a critical issue, but that's a done deal, and the state has turned that corner. So I don't know if anybody has other thoughts on the topic.
Briefly, one of the other pieces of legislation that was passed several years ago was specifically targeted at people with DACA. I think after 2026 or 2027, a person with DACA can't be an attorney, is from what I remember from the, so, like I said, if things had gone different for me, I probably would have been under DACA, and the fact that after, next year, those students can't, sit for the Florida bar or even attend law school is terrible, so.
Yes. Good morning, afternoon. My name is Maria Roballo. I am with the Immigration Justice Coalition in Sarasota, and I do have a question for you. I had heard in the news that some people had been robbed by immigration lawyers who are not really immigration lawyers, promising them documents or changing the immigration status. What do you suggest for these people in the community to learn about? How can they identify a real lawyer or people who are willing to really help them with those challenges? And for the community, I don't know how can we go there, but this is painful for people paying a lot of money, thousands of dollars, when they had no results about the expectation that they have. Thank you.
I'm an attorney. I've done a few hearings or trials on immigration, political asylum, for example, and there's a whole issue on that I'd like to talk about at some point. I don't practice immigration because it's so frustrating. They'll tell you about that in a second. It's unconscionable what happens. The president doesn't want legal immigration either, by the way. They'll change rules from one day to the next. They won't tell you about it. My wife is going through an immigration process. If you've ever gone through that, it's hell to do it correctly. It's a living hell. Now, imagine you're here, you don't know people, you want to get counsel. I've listened to attorneys talk to people. I'll give you the example of there was an appeal. Somebody had lost their hearing, and I was listening. He didn't know I was listening. And he said, well, we're going to appeal this. It's $10,000, and we have a good chance. And I said, first off, there was like a 99% chance they're going to lose the appeal. I can tell you right off the bat. What you're doing the appeal for is to give you another year here, but then you're going to get removed or have a removal order. But he's not saying that. He's selling false hope, esperanza que no existe. And totally brought me down. Nothing illegal was done, but there are so many. I went to a detention center, and by the way, they're a jail. And I go talk to this guy, and I said, look, I reviewed everything. You're going to be deported soon. Don't waste your money. I leave. The next day, another lawyer comes in. He gives him $5,000. At the end of the week, he was gone. It does happen amongst lawyers. Forget all the paralegals, the people that say this. And when people go to the incorrect person and they do a mistake in the filing, it costs that person, not the person who did the filing. It's a big problem. That's why Evelyn with Unidos Now and other organizations, they have to make a connection with great immigration attorneys. And I always tell people, go talk to 3 lawyers, not just 1, 3. Present your case. Tell them what you're doing and see what they say, what they charge, what each opinion is. But I would do that with just about anything. If I was charged with a crime, I want to, imagine just go blindly to somebody and just giving them your money. Okay. But so many people are desperate. And you are correct. And they feel victim. They are victims, and they can't do anything about it. Lawyers, licensed lawyers generally are not ripping you off. They're not doing that. But I do believe what you want is somebody that has a lot of experience in that area.
I do see this every day, because either with a phone call, they say, but I talked to another attorney and they say it's 1,000, it's 2,000. And what are you bringing to me that the other attorneys are not doing? And I always tell them, like CJ was saying, go to 3 different attorneys. Me, myself, in a consultation, I always tell them, we have the Florida bar. We have to abide by it. I say that to everybody, not only clients or potential clients, friends, family. It is your life. Your attorney should be like your doctor, like a very important part of your life. So don't make a decision right there. And I always tell everybody, and that's why we're counting on associations like this to put the word out there. Because like CJ was saying, other attorneys might not be doing something illegal, but they're doing something unethical. And it's hard for us to prove it and go and tell on them on the bar. But other organizations, they have the power to go out there, make publications, do Facebook posts, and tell them, warn them about other non-even lawyers or really bad attorneys. I always give the example that if you go to a criminal attorney and you do malpractice, then you probably, and if it's really malpractice, you get out of jail, or your family members, they sue the attorney for malpractice and something happens. They get disciplined, license suspended. And immigration is such a special, delicate subject that if you go to a bad attorney, you cannot do anything because you're out of the country. So attorneys do take advantage of that, unfortunately. So I always tell everybody, if somebody's trying too hard, if an attorney is trying too hard to get your business, I will definitely reconsider. And always go out there. Go to the Florida bar. Do your own research. Don't, like he said, don't believe me. But how do we get the word out there? That's, I think, when the organizations like this have to play a bigger role, putting the word out there. Of course, he wants to add something.
Just real quick, how you can tell of an attorney you shouldn't hire that attorney is because just like if you go to a paralegal or somebody who's not a lawyer and they're selling their services, those guys come to attorneys and say, hey, you can make a lot of money now because immigration's hot. I'll do all the work for you. Just find out if the lawyer actually goes and does it. If they don't hire that law firm.
Yeah, and just as a practical matter, every attorney in the state of Florida is licensed by the Florida Bar. You can go right now to the Florida Bar website and look up all three of us, okay? Type in our name, type in our bar number. It says we're eligible to practice law, and even tells you what areas we practice. Same thing for other states. Now, you do not have to be a lawyer of that state to practice immigration law, so I can be a lawyer here, live in DC, live in Washington, live wherever, and practice immigration law. So just as a practical matter, look up and see where that attorney is licensed, if they are a licensed attorney anywhere in the country. And just as another matter, we were talking about this, if you can go to a grocery store and also get a divorce and also file an asylum claim, that's probably not a lawyer. So, but no, I see it all the time. And I tell people, well, they told me that they can get me, you know, a work permit, a license, and a social. Great, you have it, but now you submitted a fraudulent case, and there's, you know, it's going to cost you more money to try to get out of it, if you can even do that. And in my consults, I always tell them, look, you know, I've been doing this for 7 years now. And in the beginning, I was like, look, I've only been doing this for so long. Go get another opinion. Go talk to somebody else. And I always tell people, look, you have a case, you don't have a case, or sometimes it's, you know, it's iffy. But I always say, if you go to me, you go to somebody else, and then they're selling you the moon and the stars, be careful of that person. Because a lot of times, they're going to sell you a dream, and you're not going to get anything. They're going to charge you, you know, outrageous amounts of money. I hear what they pay some of these notarios sometimes, and I'm like, maybe I should raise my fees. Jesus, you know. But that's what happens. People, they go there, they're told you can gain papers, you can get status, or you even see it on Facebook. You know, the phrase "arreglar sin salir." You know, you can become legal without having to leave, which is not the case in most cases, and they get defrauded out of, you know, thousands of dollars. And it's horrible for everyone. I was speaking to a roofing company yesterday that wanted me to talk to their employees about, you know, kind of, you know, general questions that they had. And a guy came up to me and he said, you know, I was here on a visa. My wife, she's petitioning for me now. I'm like, that's great. You know, you have a easier path than most people because you came in on a visa. He's like, yeah, we went to this lady and they told her, you know, she could fill out all the paperwork, but she said that once she filled out all the paperwork, that was it. She wasn't going to do anything. I'm like, don't do that. I'm like, you don't have to come to me, but you can go to another attorney because what I charge you is going to be from start to finish. I'm with you till the end of the case. That lady is not. And if she screws up, one, you're not going to know. And two, if she screws up and your case gets denied, right now what they're doing is they're referring people to the immigration court for removal. And you don't want to be there. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you.
My friends, I've been a member of Tiger Bay for the past 20 years. This room is not full. It's very poorly attended. And my concern is with the Tiger Bay administration and board, we've dealt with controversial issues before, but it's always been a discussion. It's never been everybody on one side and nobody to respond to that with anything else. It's not your fault. I mean, you were invited to come. So if the board of this organization wants low turnout like this, just keep on doing this. I'm sorry.
Tiger Bay Club in St. Pete, and we had an immigration debate, and it was Ziegler against me. I called him a racist and a bad guy, and I guess I was right in the long term. But if you do that with this topic, there's a lot of fireworks because, sorry, but we should do it. It's what a democracy would require. I would agree with that, but you would get entertainment.
Most definitely, lots of entertainment. What I can say is that there were requests for other parties to come and be a part of this discussion, and they chose to decline at this time. And so we moved forward with those that were willing and brave enough to stand up for what they believed in and what they felt was right. And we are very happy to have the 4 that we have here today. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. And I would hope that there are voices here that feel, strident or will express that so that we can have a conversation, because that would be my intention. And well, CJ has a tactic maybe of, and I was there to witness that day, and for me, and I love CJ, it was unfortunate. We don't need to call people names. Like, what we need to do is be adults and be able to step into the conversation and have the conversation. And so for me, it's that cognitive dissonance. And then we talk about this manosphere and who can go on Joe Rogan and this woke, we're no longer men. For me, being a man or a good human being is being in this arena to have an honest conversation. And so it's always incredible for me, these people that, mass deportation, summarily judge them, send them in perpetuity. This is something out of like A Tale of Two Cities, or where they will sit in a jail in El Salvador forever. Like, some of these things, it doesn't even make sense. So at least sit here and have a conversation. Like, can we not do that? So I agree with you, sir. I would welcome that. And if you want to join the board and organize another one of these town halls, I want to have it. I want to have the conversation with the folks at New College who just declared they have a 287G program with their campus police for 700, students, 120 of whom are baseball players. Like, this is how we're spending our state dollars? Like, this is what is important? This is what we're serious about? I want to talk to those people.
I'm just disappointed there aren't more people here listening to the facts. And that's what this is the facts. Our church has someone, an asylum seeker from Africa. She's been here 5 years. She had a child here. And every year, on Sunday morning, the last hearing was supposed to be last month. Sunday morning, she gets a call from the judge. They've canceled it. We'll see you next year. How many years does it take for somebody to get before a judge and learn what's going to happen to them? She left 2 children in Africa.
I have a friend that's been here 13 years waiting for an asylum hearing. Okay, the first thing Trump did when he got in was to fire all the immigration judges that Biden had appointed. Congress was going to pass legislation. It's not a presidential issue. It's a congressional issue to fix immigration. They don't want to do it. Remember, there was a deal in place with the senators, Republicans, and he killed it because that ruins his political opportunities. I want to mention a couple things real quick. Kelly had brought it up. Deporter-in-chief was President Obama. He deported in 1 year over 436,000 people. Congress had given $18 billion for this, and there was a deal in place. I worked in the Obama administration and part of this, that if they did all these things, the Republicans would get on board and pass immigration reform. Doesn't mean open the doors. It means, to fix the broken system, because we need the labor. They want to come and work, let them go home. Of course, they reneged on that. He deported 3 million people during his term as president. Trump, in this first term, deported 326,000 people, about the same average of all presidents except for Barack. Biden deported more people than Trump, and it still is to this moment. So the question is, they're creating this problem that they're scaring everybody, but there's only 40,000 beds available for immigration detention. The average person in immigration stays locked up in a jail in detention for 37.5 days. Remember, even if they pick you up, you can go to an attorney, you can get a bond, sometimes you can get out. If you're not a flight risk, you're not a danger to society. 100% of the people who are detained are not going to be deported. So if you removed 100,000 people physically every year that spend 37.5 days in detention. That would mean 973,000 people will be deported every year for a total of 3.9 million people in Trump's 4 years in office. And that is impossible to happen. It's just not possible. We have between 11 and 25 million people without documents in this country, depending on who you believe. The numbers suggest that 400,000 people will be deported based on infrastructure and funding. In 4 years, that is 1.6 million people deported. The point is, they're not going to be able to do it. Now, here's the other thing. We talked about when somebody comes here, it doesn't matter how you cross the border, you can argue, say, political asylum. You have to do it within 1 year. If you do that, you have a right to a driver's license, you have a right to have a work permit, and we encourage that. That's the law. So all these illegals that he's claiming, they're here with status. The Venezuelans with the TPS, they're here with status. Matter of fact, a lot of Venezuelans voted for Trump because their family are here with status. And now they're going, you're taking it away? Because they're not illegal, but they just lump everybody under this term. All right, so if you ask for political asylum, like I said, personal friends of mine, 12, 13 years waiting for a hearing. If you want to correct the problem, fund immigration. You don't have to build a wall. How about arrest the people that hire these people? It's sort of like going after the prostitutes and not the Johns that use them. I don't get that. You want to stop undocumented immigration? But here's the tragedy. If we do that, we destroy a multi-billion-dollar industry in agriculture here. There'll be nobody to fix our homes, nobody to fight our wars, and et cetera. Even lawyers. I know Eagle Scouts who are lawyers today that are undocumented. All right, so my point is that the system is broken. Forget about if you're trying to do it regularly. I mean, I have a million of examples of how we do it correctly, and it's a joke. The last time Congress worked on immigration was during the Reagan administration. The problem is not the president. Why are we trying to get the president to do executive orders? He doesn't even have the power to do that. Matter of fact, I was with Obama in the White House, in the West Wing, and they were having discussions about the president doing DACA. We were trying to get him to do DACA. So they were doing DACA. And what Obama didn't want to do is he believes it's illegal to have executive orders. So they were finally convinced because Congress would enact. So whatever your beliefs are, it's a failure of Congress to act. That's all I'm saying. Whether, you know, I'm not for open borders. I'm for rational democratic process of due process. That's all. That's all we're asking for. And I think everybody would, whether you're right or left or in between. We believe in freedom and due process. So the reality of what we hear on TV and what will really happen are two different things. And I can only say that because I work in the trenches. I live it, okay? I live it. I don't talk about it and watch it on news. I live it every day, and I see it every day. I've been brought to tears with the inhumanity that I've seen. And I think that's part of it. If you want to help, go see it yourself firsthand. Thank you.
So it is just a little after 1. We can do one more question, and then we'll go ahead.
That's
and move
exactly what I
forward.
was going to say. John, last question.
Yeah. And just a reminder, this is an open forum. We'd like to have adult, educated conversations, and so please hold your comments to while everyone else is speaking.
My name's John Colon. I am a Latino, of course, with a name like Colon. You know, you can figure that. CJ and I have known one another, been friends over 20 years. I know Kelly Kirchner as well. We agree on a lot of things. We disagree on a few things. I agree with a lot of what CJ said, okay? One of the problems I have is I address it from the point of education. As a former member of the State Board of Education and the Higher Education Coordinating Council for the state of Florida, as well as the Manatee School Board, which was almost bankrupt, I feel that one of the big problems we have is with the students and with their families, because they won't culturally become Americans. If they want to be here, they should speak English, okay? Turn off the novellas when you get home, because that's one of the things holding people back. Hey, you know, you can disagree with me, that's fine. I'm telling you, I did not speak. Oh, I don't make sense? Oh, okay. Yeah, my question being, what do we do to get these children to speak English So let's keep it calm. This is a civil discussion, I hope. It's not a discussion. I just want to say it's very important to me that the kids speak English because you can't learn. You can't move forward. You can't be a productive member of our society if you don't speak English. Okay? I have no problem with them keeping their culture at home and all of that. But I do have a problem with them showing up at school and expecting our teachers, who are burdened as it is, and underpaid in most respects, not all of them, I said most respects, from being able to teach them because they don't even have a basic tool to learn with. And we all know it's about money, because that's what everything boils down to. Yeah. It's unfortunate. My question, you got it.
Yeah, I say, can we let the panel speak?
So, great question. Great to see you again, John. I think, again, it goes back to the Mark Twain quote on, it's like what we know for sure in our gut that just ain't so. The acculturation and integration rate of the past 30 years of this wave of immigration is a faster integrating, faster picking up of English than any other wave of immigrants before. If you go back to my ancestors, originally Germans in the Cincinnati area and over the Rhine neighborhood, I had family members that my dad tells me they never learned a drop of English. And so it's actually quicker now. I think that frustration is valid. That's why nonprofits and charter schools like Dreamers Academy, nonprofits like Unidos Now, like our whole mission statement as a nonprofit is to work at the integration of that immigrant community into the fabric of the community. Because you're exactly right. When we don't do that, and when we abandon that, that's when you start having these issues of, just isolated communities and young people that are disaffected that might drop out of school, join a gang, and these types of things that we do not want. And so how do we work at integrating that? And I think the school district is a critically important area. Your nonprofit sector is a critically important area. But it's also government having much better, more adult, serious conversations rather than what I said at the outset, this dehumanizing type of thing that really creates these false arguments that we need to stop as a country. It does none of us any good.
Just real quick, I have two boys from Colombia that their stepfather, and dealing with this in the public school system, and it's very frustrating. They were pushing English. I agree with you. My mom was immigrant from Nicaragua, and she wrote and spoke perfect English. She said, I'm part of this host country. I'm going to respect the laws and do everything I can. I don't disagree with you, but there's a lot more to it, and the system is broken. And I agree with you that we should respect when I'm overseas, I was born and raised overseas, my dad was in the foreign service, I respect the laws of those countries. We go out of our way to educate. You can't drive if you don't have a license. It's the law. So you may not be doing something illegal by being here, even though they're calling you illegal, but you might be doing something illegal by driving without a license or a host of other things. We need to respect where we are, but respect goes both ways, okay? That's all I'm saying. I agree with you. And we disagree on certain things, but we agree. And I think you're going to find out that most people that are in favor of immigration reform, we agree on a whole host of things. When I'm saying Congress has failed us, we need to implement a lot of things to get them through our system quicker. You know, the term WAP is used for an Italian. You know what that means? Without papers. You know, people forget that we all are immigrants, and we've all suffered that.
Does everybody know Rossi Park right over here? He was called a WAP, and this is a good one to close on because it's at the heart of Manatee County. Probably the largest employer still in Manatee County for decades, Tropicana. Came here with $36 in his pocket. He had a 6th grade education. He's the founder of Tropicana. That's a bedrock of employment and, I think the value that Manatee County has driven for decades and built by an immigrant. And I don't know, that's the essence of, we need to get back to appreciate and understand that. Like if you look at all of our friends in tech that were in Saudi Arabia this past week, if you look at Google, Intel, Twitter, SpaceX, Tesla, these are all first-generation immigrants too. Like, so I think there needs to be an understanding of this country, the entrepreneurial spirit, what has made the United States unique for so long, and we need to stop trashing these types of things, stop trashing some of these institutions of higher education and other things, and again, get back to having serious conversations about our serious problems.
Absolutely.
So, for me, born in Mexico, moved to the U.S. when I was 3 or 4. The way I learned English was through Barney and the Power Rangers. No, seriously, through TV. And just from my standpoint as to growing up, speaking Spanish at home, going to school, for me, it was never an option to not learn English. I wanted to learn English. I picked it up. And then I would go home, I would speak Spanish. My parents, they're of a different mindset. They're like, well, maybe I'm too old to learn, or I'm not smart enough to learn, and that's fine. They understand it, they get along, they're both U.S. citizens now. But at the same time, I think the issue is you have so many people coming here at once now, and in the last 10, 15 years, that you're seeing more of a problem with students not speaking English in schools because there's so many of them. And I guarantee you, a lot of times they go to school, they come here, and they're older students. They don't start in like kindergarten like I did. They come here in first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, or even high school, and it's not their fault. It's a huge learning curve. Like, it's difficult. I mean, there are Americans that don't know the difference between there, and there. So it's not that they don't want to. It's that a lot of times they're behind the 8 ball, and it's not their fault.
Thank you all. I think we could continue this conversation on for the rest of the day and the week, and I would love to, but unfortunately, I know we all have engagements to get to after this. But thank you for attending today. As always, Manatee Tiger Bay is about having these conversations, and we do welcome both sides of any argument that we present. Unfortunately, we don't always get both sides, but we do appreciate the ones that take the time out of their day and their busy schedules to come here, answer the questions, and provide their experience. And so, again, thank you very much for your attendance today and your insights. Also, I'd like to thank our Board of Directors and Program Committee. Our next luncheon will be held on June 26th, and the topic will be growth in Manatee, which I assume will also be a very lively question or lively discussion. Thank you to TLC Embellishment Catering for today's lunch, and we'd also like to thank the media, Chris Dolan and the METV crew. Visit metvweb.com to view today's broadcast, as well as Nancy Guan, the general assignment reporter for WUSF. And that's all I have. Thank you all very much for your attendance. Sorry we ran a little late, but thank you.